this is a very interesting structure that's been put up in honor of Shehu Musa Yar'adua, who is a relative to a former president. As the curator here, help us understand the philosophy behind putting an exhibition up in his honor.
Okay, a lot of people mistaking Shehu Musa Yar'adua with the former president and late president Umar Musa Yar'adua.
Started by shading me. I made a mistake, so okay. And I'll explain why later.
Okay, but Shehu Musa Yar'adua, who is known among the political class as one of the top politicians when it comes to the fight for democracy, Shehu Musa Yar'adua was Chief of Staff Supreme Headquarters to General Olusegun Obasanjo during Obasanjo's military administration as head of state. He fought in Nigerian Civil War. He did a lot towards the development of democracy as we so have it today. And he is one who championed democracy in his cause and also the unity of Nigeria. And personally, I call him the father of Nigerian democracy. People might disagree with that, but as we go through the tour, you can judge for yourself.
I probably do disagree with you. But, you know, he comes from a family of, you know, politicians. And I wonder if you can speak to why that is. I mean, his brother, the late Musa Yar'adua, was two-time governor of Katsina State and also president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, even though for like a short period. What exactly is it about the Yar'adua background that you would say sort of pushed them in that direction?
So maybe when we go through the tour, you might see some interesting aspect of what actually spurred the family into politics and why they have that philosophy as we go through the tour.
Let's do the tour now.
Okay, so I'll just give you a quick rundown.
Okay.
Summary of his life. He was born in Katsina. We have his education, his military records. If you are familiar with military ranking, you notice he skipped a rank here from lieutenant colonel, lieutenant colonel, skipping the rank of a colonel to become a brigadier.
Why is that?
As we go to this, I'll let you
know.
Then we have his military service, public office, national honors. If you pay attention, is GCON, which is reserved for the vice president.
Yeah.
So he occupied a position similar to the vice president. That's chief of staff to General Olusegun Obasanjo, and traditional title, and he died in prison. And so we get to find out why he died in prison, also why he skipped a rank, also any other question that you might be having.
Abraham here is the curator of this exhibition, so he's going to take us on a tour now to show us around, you know, and help us understand the person that is Shehu Musa Yar'adua. If you're new to my channel, my name is Chika, and I talk about interesting people and interesting places here on the African continent so that you get a sense of the world that you are living in today as an African. If you love content like this, please like, share, subscribe. And if you need a reason to subscribe, let's start here.
Okay, just a quick introduction to Nigeria from the amalgamation of the Northern and Central Protectorate of the British colony to give birth to the country Nigeria in 1914, to our independence in 1960, becoming a republic in 1963. This was what we had then. We have the northern region, the western region, and the eastern region. But Nigeria currently has been broken into 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. There's a further subdivision into 6 geopolitical zones.
Is this where the old Biafra region would have been?
Yes, the eastern region. So the old Biafra region covers not only the southeast as it is today, but covers also the south-south. So, and a little of the south-south spills into the western region as at then. So this is what we have. But yes, it's represented the Biafra. And we get to talk about that as we go through the talk. So we have our founding fathers, or our first politicians, like I will like to refer to them. We have Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who was the first premier of the Western region, also the leader of the Action Group. We have Samadu Bello Sadan of Sokoto, also the leader of the NPC, Northern People's Congress, which was the political party representing the Northern region. The first president of Nigeria, in person of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. He was also a leader of the political party, and he co-led the NCNC in the Eastern region. We have our first Prime Minister, Tafawa Balewa, and Tafawa Balewa. We have Samuel Ladoke Akintola, second Premier of the Western region, and Michael Okpara, Premier of the Eastern region.
And by the way, quick trivia. Chief Obafemi Awolowo appears on the Nigerian notes, and so does Samadu Bello, and so does Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Let me know which Nigerian notes you would find this man on, okay? In the comment section.
Okay. So, quick introduction to Shehu Musa Yar'adua. And this answers your question, why do they gravitate towards politics?
Right.
You can't start the story of Shehu Musa Yar'adua without referring to his father, Umar Musa Yar'adua. He was a teacher, but he delved into politics and became a very strong politician, a force to reckon in the Northern region. He was a minister for Lagos Affairs and also a member of parliament in the First Republic, and that's what exposed Shehu Musa Yar'adua to politics, even as a young boy. Took interest in politics. We have his father here, Umar Musa Yar'adua, where you can see his campaign posters, NPC, Northern People's Congress. We have Shehu Musa Yar'adua over here. We have his mother, Haja Dada Yar'adua, who passed on last year. That's 2024. Then the late president of Nigeria, Umar Musa Yar'adua. We have him over here as a young boy.
Oh.
You can see the face. Then you can see Shehu Musa Yar'adua. So you know that Shehu is much older than Umar Musa Yar'adua.
Former presidents. And here we have his
Shehu
other brother,
Musa
Shehu. He's also here as well.
Yes, Umar Musa.
Yeah, he was serving face. And I find it very interesting how, like, this. Do you know what year this political poster is from? Because it's just something just simple about it, like just an axe, so a pickle axe, and just. I'm sure at the time when we're very heavily reliant on agriculture, it's just simplified hard work.
Simplified what they were after. So basically agriculture, and that was one of the mainstay of the economy as I did, especially in the northern region with the granite pyramids and all that. So you had that going for them. And this is way back before our independence.
Right. These are like really well preserved photographs.
So over here we have his school uniform. This Katsina Provincial Secondary School, where he started his leadership journey as a house captain. He was also captain of his football team. We have him over here.
So just to be clear, this is the same uniform he wore.
So you can see that we didn't have
is
to.
Really white.
We didn't have to get a new uniform. Particularly, this kind of material is not really obtainable currently.
What is it called?
Is this old? Yes, you can still find it, but you don't use it to sew school uniforms.
Like
you have more school uniforms. You can see this more better materials. You can see the stitches.
Yeah, this is something by the neck. Like
so you see, it's been stitched over time.
Yeah.
And
but you can tell that it was used. But
it was used. It was used a lot. He used the uniform, well preserved. And which begs me to ask, do you know where your school uniform is? You can just say that.
You got me. Look, I don't know where my school uniform is.
Okay, an interesting picture here. We have the person of Muhammadu Buhari and Shehu Musa Yar'adua. They both attended Katsina Provincial Secondary School. Buhari actually grew up in the Yar'adua family house almost as a sibling to Shehu. They were that close and they shared that bond. Shehu was also into sports, hockey and football as a young man.
What do you hockey? like it feels like as things change, like we leave some things. I would never have guessed that we played hockey in Nigeria at any point.
So
It's not very popular anymore.
One of the things we had going for us then was that we were under the colonial master. So every game they share, we actually they brought it to us, and we had to play a kind of something similar to that.
Oh yes.
That makes a lot of sense. We did their sports basically.
Okay. That makes sense.
We have his wife Binta Yar'adua, and we have his children over here, and we have family portraits here, 8 of them here, even though there's one more that is not in this picture. She was born much later, Hanatu. She's not in this picture. He named his first child after Murtala Mohammed. So his first son is Murtala Yar'adua, and he's a current Tafida Katsina, and also a member of board of trustees.
That's the title his father also held.
His father also held in Katsina State. He named his second son after his friend Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari. So we have Buhari Yar'adua, Murtala Yar'adua. Okay, no need to go to other names. These two stood out because he wrote an interesting letter to Yar'adua, to Buhari Yar'adua, that we see at the end of this story.
Oh, great.
So just look out for that letter.
This is shaping up to be a rather interesting tour.
Now, something people don't pay attention to is that leadership starts at a very early age, and it's the amount of responsibilities that you are given as a child that you take into everything you do. I told you he was the house captain and also captain of football team while he was in school. He joined the Nigerian Military Training College, which we know as the Nigerian Defense Academy, and he was the platoon commander. He distinguished himself in the Nigerian Military Training College, and he was amongst the few that went to the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, or RUS as it's called. It's one of the top military training colleges in the world. And interestingly, I took some graduates, some alumni of RUS, military officers from Jordan, and they mentioned that when they went, during their time in RUS, they've separated the training you have for indigenous British and you have foreign students, foreign nationals, and that actually, the training is not the same. There are some things they keep away from the foreign.
Obviously the intelligence. And,
but during Shehu's time, there was no segregation. So they had the full training of the British
citizens,
as British citizens, as it were. There was no segregation. They got the best of the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. He also went to Command and Staff College, Anqueta. And one of the things that distinguished him among his colleagues was the role he played in the Nigerian Civil War. I told you we'll come back to the Nigerian Civil War.
Yeah, it's really a dark era in our national history. And I'm happy that, we can talk about it too.
What distinguished him among his colleagues was the role he played in the Nigerian Civil War, which started in 1967 and ended in 1970. Now, I don't want to go into the details of the politics of the Nigerian Civil War, but one thing he was fighting for was for the unity of Nigeria on the side of Nigerian army. If you go around the world today, you see countries that are split. They do have crisis. We can check within Africa, Sudan, South Sudan, and we can have Ukraine, Russia, and the crisis that play when they divide. So just use those two as a sample on other nations.
But also, like, the Nigerian Civil War is one that still bears very deep wounds for a lot of Nigerians, and you can find so many materials to read. If you're interested in learning about the Civil War, I'll drop some links in the description. You can read. You can see from the perspective of the Nigerian government, and then from the perspective of the Igbos, the Southeasterners. So you can get a sense of what both sides, were talking about and essentially fighting about and how things got out of control?
Shehu personally was not happy with the way the Nigerian Civil War was executed, and so he kept it's a 3-volume diary to record troop movement and other activities during Nigerian Civil War, just in case he was caught up in the fire and he died in the middle of the war, someone could carry on with the things he did. And he was not happy with the deaths and the killings, but still he knew that the war had to come to an end. So they were fighting to keep Nigeria united. This is personal diary he kept during Nigerian Civil War. This Wednesday, 20th March, he wrote, "I made my plans and gave out my orders for the capture of Onitsha. I must start becoming critical and I have to capture Onitsha and link up with the 7th Brigade or else things will be awful. This means I have to personally lead the advance from now on." 68 Battalion started the advance at 0700 hours, followed by 66 to 68 of Brigade Headquarters. Ogidi and Mbo captured well Onitsha. Here we come. On the flip side, you see artillery movement and the movement of
So
troops.
this was written far back as
Yes, 1968.
68.
And this particular victory turned the tides in favor of the Nigerian army. The war ended in 1970. This victory was in 1968. But this particular victory, like I said, favored Nigerian army and it led to the eventual end of the war. And it was declared no victor, no vanquished. Like I said, Shehu was not happy with the war because of the bloodshed. In other history books, you see cases where it was not only the eastern region that was devastated by this war. The eastern region felt it more because it was the theater of the war. But we also have other parts of the country sending their sons, husbands into the battlefield and they didn't come back. They also bear the brunt of that particular war. So it was a national issue. And that's why the then head of state, Yakubu Gowon, in his wisdom declared no victor, no vanquished. And because we all suffered, and he looked at ways that we could reconcile the eastern region, rebuild, and just bring everybody together under one umbrella, one Nigeria. He went back, relative peace was restored, went back to playing hockey, on tennis, back to his football team.
Lived a full life, one can say.
Yes, he did. This when second division won the cup. You can see him with the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. Then we have Murtala Mohammed, General Hassan Katsina, and Shehu Musa Yar'adua. We have his military attires here as a major general and as a brigadier general. These are his uniforms. This is called the musket, ceremonial attire, and the regular uniform.
Let me know in the comment section just how much you know about the Nigerian Civil War and perhaps what you would like to learn about the Nigerian Civil War if you've read about it in the past. And I'll try as much as I can to provide resources for you, but it's a very, very pivotal moment, not just for Nigeria, but for Africa, because, it sort of showed the world that when two people fight, they can come back and make peace. And yeah, we're still in the pursuit of peace today in Nigeria, but we're not where we used to be. At least we don't have a civil war.
Okay, at the end of Nigerian Civil War, like I said, the former head of state, Yakubu Gowon, having made considerations, cancelled the date which he fixed for elections, and said that he was not going to hand over to civilians, or he said it was indefinite, postpone the election indefinitely. He had his reasons, not wanting to go into his own side of the story. He had his reasons for saying that. He also mentioned that the politicians were not matured enough to rule as at that time. But that didn't go down well with the person of Shehu Musa Yar'adua, because he felt that under a military dictatorship or a military leadership or military government, Senior military officers were saddled with the responsibility of leadership, giving them little or no time for their primary functions as military officers, leaving their roles for junior officers who lack the experience to man their offices, which was not good for the military profession. It also affected Nigerian politics because the military heads rule by decree and not by the rule of law.
Yeah.
And so the people had no input, and they were literally oppressed by the military government. So to strike a balance was why they had that particular coup that brought Murtala Mohammed into office, and it was recorded as a bloodless coup. What happened, the then head of state, Yakubu Gowon, traveled to Uganda for OAU conference, and while he was there, they sent message to him that he has been overthrown from government and forcefully retired from the army. And so he was forced out of office. Murtala Mohammed was given the position as a head of state, being the most senior officer. Initially, the coup plotters insisted that they were not going to be part of the government because the vision behind that coup was not to form a new government, but to start a transitional government to civilian rule.
Right.
But Murtala Mohammed insisted that Shehu, being one of the top coup plotters, to be part of his government alongside Shehu Garba. And so he was given the position of Commissioner for Transportation under Murtala Mohammed's administration.
Two things that I want to point out here, and perhaps ask another question. There's so many questions to ask. He did mention OAU. So if you know what OAU is, let me know in the comment section. And if you know when the O in OAU was also dropped as well, let me know in the comment section. Now that's one. Also, this gentleman here also appears on a Nigerian currency. If you know what currency notes you would find this gentleman on, let me know in the comment section.
Okay, we're still here.
Okay.
Murtala Mohammed fixed October 1st, 1979 as a date he will be handing over to civilians, and he was working to see that come to pass. He also stopped the ostentatious lifestyle of the military government, cutting his motorcade, starting with himself, stopping his motorcade, just his vehicle, his orderly and his driver moving. No extravagant movements like we have these days, and he actually paid for it. On his way to work, February 13, 1976, he was assassinated by Colonel Dimka and his team. And that particular coup was a failed coup. There are different schools of thoughts about what caused that particular coup, what led to that coup, that failed coup. But the most important thing is that it failed, even though the head of state was killed in the process. Obasanjo, who was the chief of staff to Murtala Mohammed, that's occupying the position of the vice president, he escaped that particular coup attempt on him, that assassination attempt, and he became the next head of state. He was able to rally the troops together, and that's what ended that coup. Became the next head of state. Knowing the role Shehu played to bring Murtala Mohammed into office, they wanted Shehu to be chief of staff to Obasanjo. But Shehu Musa Yar'adua was a lieutenant colonel as at that time and could not occupy the position of chief of staff. So he was double promoted, skipping the rank of a colonel to become a brigadier general, so he could occupy the position of chief of staff, supreme headquarters to General Olusegun Obasanjo. And that's why he was double promoted.
So that's the story. It took us this long to find out.
Later, he was promoted to the position of Major General at age 36, making him the youngest Major General in Africa.
Interesting, please.
So we have the service chiefs under the Obasanjo and Shehu's administration. We have Michael Adelawan. He was the chief of naval staff. Shehu Musa Yar'adua, chief of staff. Obasanjo, head of state. T.Y. Danjuma, chief of army staff. Yisa Duko, chief of air staff. And we had M.D. Yusuf, the IG of police. And a lot of development we had can be traced to the military administration, from the Ring Road, Lagos, to the Jebba Road Bridge in Kwara State, the Kata Bridge in Lagos, one of the three mainland bridges, the Warri Ports, Delta Steel Company, Alaji, are currently shut down. We have Tinkan Island, Lagos, which was Shehu's pet project when he was Commissioner for Transportation under Murtala Mohammed's short 6 months administration. Operation Feed the Nation, which was to diversify the economy from oil to agriculture.
I read about that campaign.
And also, we have the Festac 77 that has a Guinness Book record of the largest gathering of the black race. We had that in Nigeria under the administration. And they also went around the world trying to establish diplomatic ties. You can see them in Chogom, Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 77. And one of the things that were agreed to in Chogom 1997 was the Green Eagle Agreement, which was to force South Africa to come out of the apartheid regime. So they were banned from sports. Every country that signed to that agreement, we are not going to engage with South Africa when it comes to sporting activities to see how they could stop apartheid in South Africa. And so, apart from that, one of Obasanjo and Shehu's administration's foreign policy was to ensure that every African nation gained self-actualization from their colonial masters. So we fought for the independence of every other African nation that were still under colonial masters as at that time.
Giant of Africa for a reason.
And they formed the third tier of government, that's the local government system. They brought about local government, and that was to see how they could bring government closer to the people. That was the vision of that particular reform. They worked on the 79 Constitution. The 1979 Constitution is the foundation of the 1999 Constitution currently under review. They worked on that because they felt that it was necessary to have a constitution as the foundation of a democracy.
Don't you think it's ironic that a military personnel is working on a constitution for a democracy that would eventually shut them out?
So that was the idea. I could put a lot of words to that. If you paid attention to the way they were dressed in all their international visits, they didn't go with their military uniforms, which is normal among military
personnel,
military heads of states. They go with their full military regalia, so you give them that honor. But they were going with civilian attire because they wanted to transit to a civilian government, and they didn't want people to see them as a civilian government. So they were thinking as civilians, not necessarily as military officers.
Right.
So they didn't put all the input into this. They also consulted with civilians. So if you check the list of people on the administration, you can see that there's a mix of both military officers and civilians.
So
you can see that.
I can see this picture here.
You can see it's a mix of civilians and military officers, and that's because they wanted to have that civil face. It was an introduction to civil rule, and Nigeria having been under military rule, they felt we should get these people in. And that was within that period, political parties sprang up, normal politics was restored in Nigeria. Also, within that time, within 73 and 77, we moved to the Naira notes as we have it. Many people don't know this. What we had then before was the Nigerian pounds. We had the Nigerian pounds and the Nigerian shillings. But we, under the administration, they felt that we should have something more indigenous to us that doesn't tie us to our colonial masters. And that's why they got the Naira and the Kobo. Wow.
Did you ever spend any of this currency here? Are you that old?
Okay, so let me speak to this. This is a fun conversation, so I can speak to this. During that time, this 20 Naira note was the highest denomination, and it was a lot of money. Even civil servants, top civil servants earn 10 Naira. If you earn 20 Naira, you are a very big boy. You could actually buy a brand new vehicle for 150 Naira.
What?
So this was a lot of money.
I never spent any of these notes here. I don't think I did.
We had the 10 naira note, we had the 5 naira note, we had the 1 naira note, we had the 50 kobo note. After the 50 kobo note, then we had the 25 kobo coin. We have the 10 kobo coin, 1 kobo coin, half kobo coin.
It's interesting because now the largest single currency denomination in Nigeria is 1,000 naira note. So we went from 20 naira being the largest to 1,000 naira being the largest.
Without the same value.
Without the same value. And now the question is, do you think it will stop there? Some people actually think that we might end up with the 5,000 naira notes in the near future. I don't think so. But let me know if you think that it's going to happen soon, okay? In fact, I'm going to make this a poll. So maybe votes in the community section of this post, and let me know if you think we're going to have a 5,000 naira note someday.
Okay. In keeping to Murtala Mohammed's promise, they handed over to the first democratically elected president of Nigeria in the person of Alhaji Shehu Shagari and his vice chief Alex Ekweme. That was October 1st, 1979. And that was the introduction or reintroduction, the introduction to democracy. That's when we started practicing the presidential system of government. Before then, what we had was the parliamentary system of government under the First Republic.
That was when we had the prime minister.
Yes. Oh, this video is not clean. Okay. In 1987, he after he left office, he also retired from the army. He was Toban Tafida and Katsina, a title his father held before his father was elevated to the position of Mutawali, and he was left for that position. You see that his son, Murtala Yar'adua, currently holds that title.
Yeah.
Now, just a fun fact behind this title. He actually rejected this title more than once, and his father had to come to him to call it emotional blackmail for him to take up the title. So his
father's been doing that since time immemorial.
His father said that children of these days no longer honor their parents.
Oh man!
And he was like, "Baba, how have I not honored you?
You can be a high-ranking military official, and your father still says you don't respect him. They still blackmail you. Don't be that kind of dad."
And he said, "It's an honor for a son to take a title his father once held," and he left. And so Shehu had to take this title.
Yeah, father had the sauce.
Interestingly, a lot of dignitaries attended that particular turbaning ceremony. We have late Chief Nkyo Abiola, one of the champions of the June 12 election. We have royal fathers. We have late Chief Tony Anine. We have former Vice President Turakin Adama Atiku Abubakar.
This is here?
Yes. So Atiku Abubakar is, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, he is not just a colleague. He's not a colleague. He doesn't even see himself as a colleague of Shehu. He sees himself as a protege of Shehu, because Shehu Musa Yar'adua introduced him into business and politics. So he learnt directly from the wisdom of Shehu Musa Yar'adua. He went into businesses. Some of them failed, some of them succeeded. We have the Habib Bank, which became, which we know as the Keystone Bank today. From Habib Bank became PHB,
Platinum Habib Bank.
Platinum Habib Bank, and Keystone Bank as we have it today.
Do you remember that old ad? Someday cars will run on water. That's him.
And cars are yet to run on water. Maybe if the bank had continued as Habib.
Well, it's expensive.
We need cars to run on water.
We do, actually.
Water will be expensive.
Oh my God. You know what? We are fine with them running on sunlight.
We have another of his business which currently Records Oil and Transit Supply. This is a logistic company which we now know as Intels.
Oh, and that's what Atiku Abubakar currently runs. Oh, brilliant.
Okay, so a question was asked, because I know it will spoil in the minds of people watching this particular channel. he was in government. Didn't he loot government funds to fund his businesses? And so he was asked that question. So he answered it to clear the air. He said that he leveraged on his credibility as a former leader to secure loans, viable loans from banks, and was able to go into businesses. And like a regular businessman, some of his businesses succeeded, some of them failed, which is the trademark of every businessman. So he just went into business, worked on his goodwill, and got loans to run his business. And
Sounds
people
okay
still
to
do
me.
that. People still do that till date. I don't want to mention names, but top businessmen run on their business credibility to secure heavy loans from bank to run their businesses. So once you have that credibility, it works. Somebody say relationship is a money, your character is money. So it's not just cash. Anything can be money.
I guess the long and short of it is be credit worthy, whatever you do.
Yeah. We have his regular. There's a long story behind this, and I don't want to tell that story.
Why not?
This is he was this simple. What he wore to work. We have his attire as a Tafida and Katsina, his royal attire. You can see him here on it. He was also a devout Muslim. He chaired the committee that built the National Mosque, the financial committee, and this is also the this National Mosque Executive Committee. He chaired the financial committee that built the National Mosque. And if you go to the National Mosque till date, and you have this discussion with them, they always try to refer to him that he built the National Mosque. Because he was heavily involved and vested in the building of National Mosque. And the dome of the National Mosque is gold. It was donated by Saudi Arabian government. Shehu had to go back into politics after he retired from the army and also from politics when they left office, because there was yet another coup, another military coup, bringing our immediate past president Muhammadu Buhari, then as a general, into office, and a counter coup in 85. That coup was in 83, December 83, and a counter coup in December 85, bringing Babangida into office. In an interview that Shehu granted, he describes democracy as a child. If you give it time, it will grow. And he felt that this young democracy, this young child has been terminated, and he wanted to kickstart a fresh democracy. And that's what actually brought him into politics. Not that he was necessarily seeking power. He was more interested in returning Nigeria back to a democratic government, back to a civilian regime. So we had him going into the People's Front, the PDM, trying to see how they can force government to hand over power to civilians, pushing for an election. Babangida wanted a two-party state, the SDP and the NRC. Technically, it was meant to divide Nigeria along regional divides. The NRC, N North, SDP, S South, but it didn't play out. Shehu merging his political movement with that of the SDP, making it a national party. It's on the platform of the SDP that the PDP won the 1999 election, because the then PDP was made up of Shehu's SDP. And also the APC as we have it today, we still have elements of Shehu's SDP. The likes of our current president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they were all part of Shehu's SDP under the Abiola wing as at then. And they fought, you hear him always talk about their fight and in the struggle for June 12th. They were all involved in that. And he contested for the position of president. In his presidential declaration, he made this statement: our vision is for a new Nigeria with a common sense of purpose and a common destiny. A Nigeria that is neither north nor south, west nor east, but dedicated to the common good of all. And this far back as February 25, 1992. That statement still remains viable in Nigeria.
So that's the banner that would have been his campaign banner?
Yes. So this was just enlarged. We have it here. is enlarged.
That's very interesting.
Then what we had was direct primaries. We didn't have the indirect primaries as we have it today. And so you had people from every state trying to nominate their presidential flag bearer, members of the party. And you can see 1.something million people from the party voting for him. And he actually did well in some eastern states. So he wasn't just known within the north.
These are very interesting figures.
Yeah, we have Baba Gana, Kingibe, we had Saraki, Nzeribe, Falashe, Balogun, Jakande, Waziri. These are top guys in their own. But you see the outcome. You can see in a state like Empik and Eastern states. Okay, look at Edo State, 65,000. See all that? These Edo states. Go down to Cross Rivers, 32. It's only Nzeribe that was able to defeat him here with 38. But he was pulling heavy figures in every state.
And look at Imo State.
Imo State,
Went
yeah.
from Nzeribe at 99,000.
Definitely, he's from his state. So he's from Imo State. There's no way he won't get that. I think he also did well in Nzeribe did well in most of the eastern states. You can see him in Anambra. But you see Shehu, even in that same Anambra.
He did well. He was close to Nzeribe.
Yes.
Anambra.
So you know that he was really popular.
Really national figure.
So then politics was really based on popularity and not on the other things.
Interesting times, really.
Okay, he was barred from politics by the Babangida's government, citing flimsy excuses, including that there was this concept that Babangida's government brought then, which is the new breed. They wanted new, fresh politicians that have not participated in any election or held any office in the government. So the new breed. And that literally eliminated him from contesting. And to the dismay of his supporters, he didn't contest it because his vision was not to be president, but to bring about democracy at all costs. Many people don't know this. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar also contested there.
What year was this?
This was 1993, June 12, 93. So that's for the June 12, 93 election. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar also mentioned during the 20th commemoration of the death of Shehu that he was Shehu's choice for this particular election. But he had to step down for Chief MKO Abiola because for the other interests that saw Abiola as someone that could represent, and based on his loyalty to Shehu, he had to step down because Shehu told him to step down for MKO Abiola. June 12th election remains Nigeria at its best and its finest when it comes to free, fair, and credible election. I don't think we've had any election like that, free, fair, credible. Yet it was annulled by the Babangida's government for reasons best known to Babangida, not wanting to go into that politics. But Shehu and other people stood up to the government of the day. There was an interim government in place. Babangida left office for an interim government, which was toppled by yet another military regime, bringing the regime of Sani Abacha. Now, a lot of people have a lot to say about Sani Abacha. He's one person that if we can actually start a series on, and there's so much to say about him.
Yeah.
But just to round up everything about Abacha to these words, he wanted to transit from a military head of state to a civilian president. So he formed 5 political parties. You can contest for any position, but the presidency was reserved for him. And so late Chibola Ige referred to those 5 political parties as the 5 fingers of a leprous hand because they represent same corrupt Abacha. Shehu stood up to Abacha in the Constitutional Conference of 1994, insisting that at the end of that year, they hand over to civilian government. And the administration of Abacha didn't find that funny. And so he was arrested alongside Obasanjo he was given a death sentence, Obasanjo a life sentence, but that was reduced to 25 years for Obasanjo and him a life sentence. In the midst of all this happening, the quagmire happening in Nigeria, we had South Africa gaining their freedom from the apartheid regime, getting their first black president in person of Nelson Mandela. And Shehu made this statement. Say, when I watched the inauguration of Nelson Mandela as the first black president of South Africa on television, I was very happy for him. But I'm unhappy for Nigeria because we were not recognized in South Africa. And if we should continue like this for the next 5 years, the entire world will forget us and no nation will bother about Nigeria anymore. And that's actually coming to play.
You think?
Nobody bothers about us. If not that we have resources that they need, nobody will really bother about us. Before our words count, before the words of our president count, if he says, if the president of Nigeria says to a West African nation, that coup, stop it, it will happen. But we are not having that same relevance as we had in those days.
Let me know what you think, though. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Nigeria still holds any big relevance on the global stage, or maybe West Africa, like we used to back in the day? It will be interesting to find out your thoughts. Link them in the comment section.
But we still pull some international weight.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion, not the position of the center. So
that's
scratch that. Don't scratch it.
Okay, it's fine. Don't worry, when we let this get in click.
Okay.
How you want that place to be.
So coming into the prison days of Shehu, like I said, he was sentenced to life. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. While he was in prison, he shared a cell with Ken Saro-Wiwa. Ken Saro-Wiwa staged a protest against the government due to the destruction of the Ogoni land, due to oil exploration. And basically what he was calling for is what we refer to as Ogoni cleanup. The government to be more responsible to the people of Ogoni because they are benefiting from the rich oil deposit in Ogoni, in the Ogoni land. They should be responsible to the Ogoni people because oil exploration was affecting their community, health-wise, also the agriculture and all that. He was a Nobel Prize nominee and also declared a prisoner of conscience by Amnesty International. He was sentenced to death by hanging under the Abacha's government, and he was actually executed. And this begs to show what a democratic nation is and why democracy should stand. There's a statement that the worst democracy is still better than the best military rule, because at least under democracy, the rights of the people count. Now, in Nigeria's recent democracy, we can tie a lot of protests. We've had the Bring Back Our Girls protest, Enough is Enough, Amumu Don't Do, IMN, IPOB, NSAS, End Bad Governance, just name it. We've not had sentences, we've not had executions like we had under the military regime. And that's because we are in a democracy, and one of the tenets of a democracy is the rule of law. It stands supreme even above the government of the day. These are postcards that were sent to him in prison, and some letters just have some chronicles of letters and postcards sent to him in prison. I'll just speak one of these letters to emphasize his heart and what he was actually fighting for. This letter he wrote to Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States of America, and we just read from the only part which we have here, which shows his heart for Nigeria. He says, Mr. President, my country is today in the grip of a very greedy and inept dictatorship. Its once viable institutions are being destroyed. In the face of all this, one's personal problem appear inconsequential. In short, Mr. President, much more than General Obasanjo and myself, Nigeria needs saving. Please help save my country. Sincerely yours, Shehu Yar'adua. And that was his heart. He was thinking about Nigeria as a country. He was thinking about the freedom of Nigeria from the dictatorship of the military administration of General Sani Abacha. While he was in prison, he took to teaching Islamic studies to better the life of prison inmates. We had his prayer mat and his
This
morning
was the
prayer.
very prayer mat that he used in prison.
Yes. He took, like I said, he took to teaching Islamic studies to better the lives of prison inmates. And after being transferred through several prisons, he met with death December 8, 1997, at age 54.
He was quite young.
Yes, he still had a lot to offer. Okay, I know you like to know the story behind these books. So he was an avid reader. He read a lot of books while he was in prison. I'm wondering, the person that wrote this book crashed at 2010. Because we've already gone past that future.
Yeah.
But he read a lot of books. Apart from that, some of these books were used in smuggling letters in and out of prison, and that's why some of these letters made it out of prison.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. What is this here?
So this is the bag that his personal effects were kept when you go to prison. You take off your watch and everything. Personal effects into this bag. They were kept here. Then this tag is the tag on his corpse. So you look at it. It writes "State Matters, died 8/12/1997. So when you are born, there's a time of birth that is put on your wrist or on your feet. Same thing when you are declared.
And this was his funeral procession.
Yes, and we'll get to see a very interesting picture here. This particular painting will come up now.
Oh, man standing over the body.
Yeah.
Right.
Then we zoom back a bit. We should give you a better picture of this. And this was the ceremony. And it's very ironic because he was declared an enemy of the state. That's why he was sentenced to death on treason. You are seen as an enemy of the state, but you are given a state burial. If you check the video, at the beginning of this video, his corpse was flown in by a military jet. So he was given a state. You see the crowd that came out. He was loved. He was known.
Is it clear why he died?
Officially, that's all I can give to you. The official report, the official cause of his death, liver inflammation. So you can solve the puzzle. He died at age 54 at a very young age, and little did the Abacha's government know that Abacha will be following suit the next year. That's 1998. Abacha died in June 98. Until date, the cause of Abacha's death still remains a mystery, but officially, just like the official death here shows liver inflammation, Abacha's death was cardiac arrest. And
all of these are the honors that he received in his lifetime.
No, after his death, his friends came together and they thought of a way to honor him and also to immortalize his person and see how his legacies can be sustained. And so they came together, and that's where the Shehu Musa Yar'adua Foundation was better. You can see, okay, this is the first DG, founding DG of Shehu Musa Yar'adua Foundation, Jamila Jacqueline Faris. We have, you can see our current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then as governor of Lagos State. It's Tony Anini, McCarthy, all his political allies and colleagues came together to honor him. In the first commemoration, you can see Nelson Mandela was here to also pay his respect to Shehu Musa Yar'adua. We had a lot of people coming. Andrew Young, Ambassador Andrew Young, who was former ambassador, United States ambassador to West African region, way back in 1993. But they all came to honor his person. Let me round up with this letter. This letter shows his heart even while he was in prison. He wrote this letter to his son Buhari, his second son. A lot happened in life of Buhari, and one of the things, he was about to drop out of school because he felt his father was pursuing politics and had no time for them. A very long story that I don't know if I have the permission from Buhari to share with you. But the summary of it was Shehu wanted his son to understand what he was in prison for and what he was fighting for. And this is a heart of a father to his son, a heart of a patriot to his son, what he was fighting for and why he had to make this sacrifice for the nation and also for his son. This letter from Abakaliki prison, 12 September 1996. My dear son, you see Buhari, I'm today in prison not because I want political power to be president as most people think. I do what I do because I love you, because I don't want my children to grow up in a country that has no future, a country you cannot be proud of. You see, my son, I believe a person is nothing if he has no pride in himself. I'm sure you understand I'm not talking about the pride of the ignorant. I'm talking about the kind of pride that comes as a result of achievement and inner strength, the kind that makes his possessor humble. I would not have achieved anything if after I'm gone, all I leave behind for you are empty houses and some bank accounts. For these are nothing. They can be acquired by any idiot. I want to leave for you something you can be proud of, a legacy of public service and sacrifice, which will influence our country for good, which you will be proud to inherit and which I'll be proud to pass over. I love you, Daddy.
Oh, that's a brilliant letter.
And that was his heart. And we are trying to do a program around this. What letter will you write to your son or to your future? What are your thoughts towards Nigeria? What are your activities? What are the wins that you've made in Nigeria? As an individual, what do you look forward to in Nigeria? For someone to be in prison and write this letter, you know that his heart was for a future. He saw Nigeria, a better Nigeria, Nigeria that was worth fighting for, a Nigeria that was worth dying for. And he made this statement in an interview he granted in 1994. He said, all of us are going to die and leave the country. So our thinking must transcend our immediate desire. We must think of the future as we are going to leave others behind. We must think of the future even before it comes. And true to his words that democracy is a child and it grows over time, we've had his former boss and protege, Obasanjo and Atiku Abubakar, deepened our democracy, restored our international image among other developmental strides, down to his younger brother, Umar Musa Yar'adua, who deepened our democracy by declaring his asset on assumption of office. I think that was what brought about the birth of the CCB. Code of Conduct Bureau to check public servants and their activities, transparency. So he declared this asset on assumption of office. He stopped the crisis in Niger Delta region with his amnesty initiative, and all this with his 7-point agenda. You saw that he was already on the path of building on the gains of democracy from the Obasanjo's administration. Died in office. His vice, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, continued in office, winning another term, handed over to an opposition party through an electoral process that saw the electoral umpire declare the opposition as the winner. There was no contest. That is democracy. And over time, we've had this flow of democratic movement. And one of the things that stand out in our democracy, or in a democracy, is not the leadership, it's the people. So democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, right? Yeah. Of the people, by people, for the people. It's about the people. So a democracy cannot stand without a people who are conscious of their democratic rights. And if you check the trajectory of Nigerian democracy, we have people who are more conscious of their democratic rights. In the last election, you saw that people came out in their numbers to vote, and it will continue to increase. We are more vocal about our democratic rights. We are more vocal about the government than we've ever been in our history. It's not top politicians talking. It's almost everybody, the youth, the influencers. Everybody is involved in politics, meaning that our democracy has grown because the will of the people, the understanding of the people, the consciousness of the people when it comes to democracy has improved over time. because democracy has grown like a child. We should be in our teenage stage, if I may say, because that's when you are radical. We are very radical. And all this is because someone thought about a democratic Nigeria, fought for that democracy, died in the struggle to achieve that democracy. And that person is Shehu Musa Yar'adua. Someone people don't talk about much, but set the platform for democracy that we so celebrate in Nigeria.
So it says, we invite
today.
you to pause for a moment, read the reflections of others, and briefly record your own memory of Shehu Musa Yar'adua.
So what we have here is a diary. And people come in here on a tour, and when they are done, they put reflections on Shehu, one of the things they've learned, reflecting over his life. Some of them write down prayers, some people write down their hopes and aspirations for Nigeria. And I can say this, most of the children that come in here on tour, they leave here thinking about how they can make Nigeria better.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. When I woke up this morning and I said I was gonna come here, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But I feel like I have a renewed hope for Nigeria's democracy, right? It's not perfect, you know. It's not perfect, but I think of the struggle to get to where we are. And I can only imagine, you know, the struggle that it will take us to get to where we want to be, you know, and what is required of every individual to get there, so that we're not saddling the responsibility on one person.
Yeah.
Everyone then
It's a
takes,
collective responsibility.
responsibility and owns their parts in that. So yeah, can I write in this?
Yes.
So I am going to say that today's date is okay, so I'm going to say today. I don't like the state of our democracy, but I know that our story doesn't end here. So I will do my best to ensure that I and my children live in a democracy that serves us all. This is only a chapter and not our entire story. And I said that because I can imagine what must have been going through his mind when those multiple coups happened, when he had to go to war against his fellow countrymen, when he had to watch as a dictator took over this country from what would have been a military transition, you know, into a democratic rule, and then threw him in jail for speaking up. I imagine what it would have been like sitting down with Ken Saro-Wiwa in jail, talking about the plans for Nigeria, and seeing that this man is thrown here in jail because he asked for the government to clean up the land where they've been drilling oil that has caused his people to lose their lives and live in abject poverty, can't go to school, don't have jobs, can't fish because of the oil spills. And in that state of mind, it can be very easy to give up, you know, and say, what is this for? I'm a fulfilled military official. I can live whatever life I want. I can abandon all of this and go and live for myself and my family. I mean, his son must have been feeling abandoned. But he knew that this is just a chapter and not our entire story. And so he kept writing his own part of the story. And now he's no more, but we can come to a place like this, see his legacy, pick up the pen where he dropped it, and continue writing our own story. So I see all that's happening in our country today, the state of our democracy. It's not perfect. I don't like it, but it can always get better. And if we all do what we should, if you do your part as a Nigerian, I do my part as a Nigerian, we can write a better story, right? And hopefully we will all build a democracy that future generations will look back and thank us for. Abraham, thank you very much for this talk.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Hey, look, if you like this conversation and you want to see this for yourself, this is the Shehu Musa Yar'adua exhibition at the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Come by yourself and, learn a thing or two about our country, Nigeria. My name is Chika. If you've loved this, well, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.